Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
Hello and welcome to the Working Wisdom podcast at the Bauer College. I'm Amanda Sebesta, the Communications Manager here in the Office of Communications, and today I am here with Eric Beydoun. Eric is an award-winning entrepreneur with 4 years of startup experience and 2 years of global business development experience. He earned an undergraduate degree from Bauer College in 2014 and was a member of Bauer's Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship. Eric, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And so I'm just going to kick us right off with a couple of questions about you. So Eric, you're the founder and CEO of Eko Studios, which is an online influencer marketing agency based here in Houston. Can you tell us a bit about the business and what you do there?
Yeah, of course. I started Eko Studios February this year, actually 2018, and with my partner Kavya Pernankil, who's also a UH graduate.
Cool.
Yeah. Really found that there was a lack of awareness around the influencer market in Houston. We see there's a lot of influencer marketing happening in Los Angeles, in New York, all those big cities. But why not in Houston? So we decided to start a small marketing boutique focused on influencer marketing. And from there, we saw a bigger need to create a social media marketing company. And now we just kind of opened our third branch, which is direct marketing. So Eko Studios is really kind of creating marketing for small to medium-sized businesses. So finding affordable ways for little mom-and-pop shops or franchisees to really kind of put their word out and have an echo in the market, and through different media. So it could be through Instagram or Facebook or even direct marketing brochures or etc.
Very cool. And so you mentioned you started the company earlier this year. So what has the reception been like, and how is business?
Yeah, it's been a ride, like each one of my companies, which is normal. I learned a lot from my past companies, which is great, which make things very easy. And I also selected my team very wisely. So with experience, I learned what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and really hired and surrounded myself with people that are very good at what I'm not good at. So the culture inside and the team has been great. We're a team of 4 or 5 people now. And business has been going good. It's been growing. You can always wish to grow more, but I'm very happy. Honestly, a great adventure, a great team, and really fun times. And that's really kind of what I want to keep in mind with this kind of company is we're doing social media. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be creative, and that's kind of the culture and environment we're creating. So I'm excited.
Awesome. So your business is all about connecting influencers to brands. So what do you think it means to be an influencer? And what responsibilities does that carry as consumers look more and more to online sources like social media to make purchasing decisions?
Yeah, I think that's a great topic. I think so. A lot of studies say there's around 2,000 influencers in Houston. In our exclusive list, we have 500 influencers, and that's in around 9 months. We're cross-industry. You can be an influencer in many different platforms. You can be more of a blogger. You can be a YouTuber, an Instagrammer, Facebook. The more you have, then that's an advice for influencers. The more diverse you are, the more you're interesting for brands. So the definition of an influencer is you can be in any market. It could be a small or a big one, but your following is loyal following, let's just call it like that, are really attracted to what you're posting and interested in what you're doing. And so consistency and your brand should always come first before selling out for another product that wants to give you some money for XYZ. So that's it on influencers. And then what was the second part?
What do you think it means to be an online influencer, and what responsibilities does that carry as consumers look more and more to online sources like social media for purchasing decisions?
Yeah, and I think that's a great second part. I think at the end of the day, I had an issue personally with influencers having sometimes power to destroy a business online. Just because, maybe the waiter took a bit too much time or something like that. And, you put a review, it goes a long, long way. And I see it from a business owner perspective now. You have to be conscious about the reviews you leave and maybe take a deep breath before putting that review out, because it's going to go a long way and you can really hurt a business like that. So I like being in that middle kind of ground between the businesses and between the influencers, and really making sure that it's a fair playing game. And, nothing is out there currently to keep the influencers accountable. They can do whatever they want. They can leave whatever reviews, and no one's really blacklisting them or telling them that you're a lower grade of influencer or a higher grade. I'm not asking, in general, we're not asking for a fake review. It's all honesty. But even if you're leaving a bad review, constructive criticism is always better than just being bashful. So that's what I'm excited about, is really kind of leveling up the playing field and making sure it's a fair game on both sides.
Absolutely. And this type of business that you have, was not prevalent 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. So what do you attribute to the growing trend of influencer marketing?
Yeah, I think with our generations more and more, there's a lot of studies out there showing, millennials, the magic word, millennials have more than one job. No one really only has one job today, and I think everyone's an influencer today. Everyone knows how to handle some kind of social media in our generation, so it's a pretty easy side job, I guess, for a lot of people, and it's exciting because it's art in its own form, and it speaks about who you are. And so it's an easy market to get into, but being great at it, that's the hard part.
Absolutely. So Eko Studios, you focus specifically on Houston, and you mentioned there's 2,000 influencers here in Houston. So can you tell us more about those influencers, who they are, what kind of brands that they're working with, and how you stay connected with what those influencers are doing in the city?
Yeah. So there's a little misconception in the market, and I think, and that may be for another day, but there's a big black curtain that happens with influencers. There's a lot of behind the scenes that a lot of people do not see, and a lot of people see the tip of the iceberg. So just be aware of that in many aspects. So Houston has a big group of micro influencers. So inside Eko Studios, we divided all our influencers in different groups depending on their following and their engagement. And engagement is number of likes and comments per picture. And so we really look at how to divide them and which brings most value to brands out there. And so what we're seeing now, and that's a trend, buying fake bots, growth engines, or being organic. And those are the three options that everyone looks at, or little tips and tricks right and left to grow your following. And then at some point, Instagram's going to get stricter and it's going to get rid of a lot of those fake followers, which we're already seeing a bit. So we categorize our influencers through following and engagement, but there's also an internal process. For every probably campaign we put out there, I would say probably 20 to 50% flake, do not show up. So there's no unit of measure on that. There is no number of followers that says you're not going to flake or something. So us internally, what we're doing is we're seeing, hey, are you actually a business person, and can you be reliable?
Right.
Because if we set up a campaign and we prepare everything and you don't show up at the end of the day, then you're looking bad for your brand and for our brand too. So we're adding measures of units and making sure the only thing we're asking is be authentic, be yourself, and stick to your word. If you're saying you're going to show up, then show up. We don't want to be dealing with kids. We really want to be dealing with influencers and consider you as business professionals and then pay you for that. So that's kind of how it goes.
Right. No, and that's a great point, that you're really a business person. It's more than just setting up your iPhone and saying, oh, let me try this makeup, or and trying to get, I don't know, L'Oreal to cover you. You really, like you said, it's all this behind the scenes work that really goes into it. So that's pretty interesting. So then, in terms of the business, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk mostly about, Kavia's Pernunkel, my partner's day, that she's really running a lot of operations. I came in mostly to build the structure up and find the first businesses and set up everything. But Kavia's really the one running everything behind the scenes and will be officially CEO of the company in 2019.
Oh, congratulations.
So I'm very excited. So basically, Kavia takes care. So it's really hard because we're not only doing social media management, we're doing influencer management, and we're also doing direct marketing now. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of fire. So on the hard side, let's just say businesses don't always know what kind of marketing they want, and you probably know that too.
Yep.
So that's a lot of last minute changes that is extremely difficult to set up, especially when you start having a lot of accounts. And on the influencer side, I guess it's really so that's an interesting point is if you let an influencer ask a business for, hey, I want to be an influencer for you, the amount they're going to ask for is crazy, because they're basing their stats and report from LA influencers or New York influencers that charge a couple of hundred, maybe a couple of thousands for a post. But if you come to Houston, you're not in the same area. So there is no real data point out there for, hey, what should a Houston influencer charge? What is fair? And no one has really done a market study. So Eko's currently doing that. We'll probably be releasing it in 2019 to show, okay, those are average numbers. This is what you should be expecting as a business and as an influencer, to make sure, once again, the ground is pretty level on both sides. Sorry, so I know I went out of the scope of the question.
No, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
No, keep going. It's just
so on a daily activity, it's when we schedule, it helps us a lot. So we initially did a lot day per day, then week per week, and now we're month per month, which is very helpful and frees our hand a lot, because there's a lot of softwares out there that help you kind of schedule without kind of losing engagement. But it's really about preparation, and anything you can do up front is going to help you. And that's also applicable to influencers for their own content. You really want to predict Christmas is coming up. Let me do a Christmas shoot in November and get ready to post it in December. So it's all about prediction and posting it.
fantastic. And so do you incorporate your own personal brand into your work, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I think my personal brand would be tied to two big points: startup life and the fitness kind of health world. I love the startup life, and I love empowering my partners and kind of creating that entrepreneurship fire within them, which has been a fun journey for me. And on the fitness side is creating my own schedule to make sure I always have time to go to the gym, play some sports, eat healthy, sleep enough, and so really keep a nice balance between those two.
How often do you work out? Now that you say that that's like part of your brand, I gotta know.
Yeah, I used to do a lot more, but I'm around 3 to 5 times a week. I think that's it's just, I'm not, once again, there's different goals in fitness. I passed my personal trainer certification. I don't train people. I just keep it for me, for my knowledge, and just be efficient with my time, basically.
Well, you do it 3 to 5 times more than I do, so kudos to you. So you answered my question about what's your personal brand, but so what is your vision for Eko Studios over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think Eko Studios is hopefully what differentiates us from all the marketing companies in Houston, because there's a lot, is the influencer piece. And so there is ways to scale that even outside of Houston. So we're starting in a smaller market compared to all the US, of course, but we intend to grow, and we see a need to grow. But it's really about helping Houston out in the influencer market and all influencers involved, and really putting the word out. I mean, businesses, when we say, hey, have you thought about influencer marketing, they have no idea what I'm talking about. And some influencers have no idea what they're doing. And so really helping both parties and try and just create a market for it. So I'm sure more influencers companies will show up. I mean, I'm seeing modeling companies starting to get into that. You know, there's a transition. Everyone's going towards digital, and they should. If you don't change, you will be left behind. So it's interesting. We'll see where the future brings us, but I'm happy we have a good head start on a lot of people that are waking up now and trying to see, okay, influencer marketing is something, let's start changing. Our goal is for our list to really kind of build a fun community of influencers within Eko and make sure that the campaigns we find for them are worthwhile their time.
Great. We're going to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors, and when we get back, we'll continue our conversation with Eric Beydoun. Got an idea for a startup? Red Labs is the University of Houston's co-working space, startup accelerator, and technology entrepreneurship program.
Supported by Bauer's Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, we work with UH-affiliated founders to turn your technology startup ideas into high-growth ventures. We provide free co-working space, access to mentors and resources in the startup community, and customized startup curriculum. For more information, visit redlabs.bauer.uh.edu.
And we're back. We're speaking here with Eric Beydoun. And so, Eric, before we left, we were talking about Eko Studios and what you're currently doing. So now I'm going to shift gears on us a little bit, and I want to go back to the past and talk about your time when you were here at Bauer. And so you got your undergraduate degree in 2014,
Yes.
And you were at the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship. So can you tell me about that experience and why you wanted to pursue entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So I moved to America from France when I was 18, so I think around 2010, just because I wanted to pursue a business degree that has more of an international kind of presence than a French business degree, at least the one I was pursuing. And so got to U of H, and then the years were passing by, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to stay focused on kind of one avenue only. And then playing rugby here at U of H, one of my teammates, Louis McKinney, was talking to me about the entrepreneurship program and how it is, and I was like, that looks like the most selective program on campus. Let me try it out. And it looks like it's not closing any doors, so that is very interesting. So I joined, not really knowing anything about the program itself. I didn't do a good due diligence, and got in the program. And then I am really thankful today for what the entrepreneurship program has taught me. WC has really more than taught me a lot of skills. I think Ken and Dave at the time did a great job. I called them mom and dad, and one was very strict and hard, and the other one was very nice and kind of supportive. But taught me more about who I am, and really to focus on my passion. And maybe you don't see a way right now to monetize it, but down the road you will find a way, and it'll actually be a fun life and a fun adventure.
So how do you think, the WCE benefited you now that you have, your own business?
Yeah, of course. I started my first business at WCE. So Wavestream was my first startup here. A great experience. Ran that for 4 years. Closed the company after 4 years after a lot of failures on a bigger pilot scale. We had we were a lot on Bauer magazine.
Yes, you were.
That was fun. Good times. Learned a lot of lessons. It was great. We shut down, and then a week later got an email from one of our potential investors, and he then recruited me to manage 3 of his energy startups.
Oh, wow.
So that was great. Learned a completely different industry. So I did water. Now I was doing geothermal, artificial intelligence, and big data. Everything in the oil and gas space. And then after 9 months, I was ready to do my own thing again, and so launched 2 companies, Eko Studios being one of them, and the other one called Easy Case Law. That's another story for another day. But it really all started from WCE. That's where I really started my first company, and then realized, just do it. Honestly, just take the leap, do it, and then learn from your lessons. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. And you did touch on Wavestream, and so I do have to talk about it a little bit. But it was a water technology startup based on UH intellectual property. You and your team raised over $400,000 in awards for this startup, and you continued working on it in graduation. Did you, if it didn't suddenly, if it didn't work out, would you have wanted to continue that? Was that something that you did foresee working on for quite some time?
Yeah, I liked working in an impact startup. So marketing is cool and it's fun and I love it because it's structuring, but I'm not changing the world in any big way. I'm helping Houston. I'm helping level out 2 parties that need to understand each other better.
Yeah.
But I would like a bigger impact startup. So we'll see where I'll go, but maybe in 10 years or so, you'll probably see me back in the impact space.
Which is great. And
Yeah.
well, and you said, this global space, you mentioned you were from France. What else is your background? 'Cause
Yeah, my parents are Brazilian and Lebanese.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up mostly in France and now back to the U.S. I was born here. I left when I was very early.
Wow.
So basically 4 kind of countries playing around, which is very interesting, brings perspective.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and I remember when y'all had Wave, that was the cool part about your team was everybody was an international background, and that was just so neat. And it was like, look at these guys doing all this cool stuff. So, Eric, where can people find you and Eko Studios if they're interested in your services?
Yeah, of course. Well, the easiest way is honestly on Instagram. At ekostudios.us. You can find us. You'll see our portfolio of influencers there, so check them out. Follow them if you want to. We're online. www.ekostudios.us. All kinds of social medias. If you put ekostudios.us, you will find us. We have an office space in the Harwin area.
Oh, nice.
So, honestly, the easiest way would be Instagram.
Yeah. Well, Eric, thank you so much for talking to me today, and it was good to see you and catch up. And for our listeners out there, this was our last podcast episode of Fall 2018, and we will be back in January with new episodes.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the CT Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcast.